Hello and welcome to another live lesson. It is another week and it's another sunny day, a sunny week in Malta. I hope everyone is doing well. In today's lesson, we are going to look at three words. And these are important words to know how to use when to link ideas together. Whilst, and whereas. So we're going to look at those three words today. We're going to look at how we can try and use them either at the start of a sentence or halfway through in the middle of a sentence. So yes, I hope everybody had a good weekend. I hope everybody is well as well. Leondina says, hi, good afternoon. Leondina, welcome to today's lesson. Thank you for joining. If this is something you have thought about before, how to link ideas together in English, and you've been told about words like while or whilst, but whereas, but never knew really how to use them, like this video from the beginning. If you are watching later, please fast forward about the first 5 minutes because it usually takes us about 5 minutes before we get into things. So as for this week, AM language, I am able to update you regarding some things that you might like to know. So while we wait, this week, Evelina, good afternoon and welcome to today's lesson. So this week, by the way, guys, in case you would like to know, we've got some activities going on at school. And so you have, today there's a Slimmer City walk, and there's also chill out by the sea and meet and greet. The meet and greet is something that happens every week. And it's a really good way for new students to meet other students, as well as older students to meet new students. Tomorrow, you've got Casa Rocca Piccola and the Letter Walk, as well as there's some more things. There's a spa at the Intercontinental Hotel, and there's a football match as well. Wednesday, there's kayaking, and I do recommend kayaking in Malta. Alida as well. Good afternoon. So Leondina, Evelina, and Alida, good afternoon. Buono pomeriggio and buenos dias for Alida, who is in Argentina. So kayaking, yes, kayaking in Malta is it's a really good place to kayak. The sea at the moment is calm, so I suggest if you can go kayaking, definitely do. The wildlife this year in Malta is particularly good, so there's a strong possibility of seeing some really good wildlife as well, including sea turtles at the moment. Good afternoon, Sergio. Boa tarde. Oh, so that must be Portuguese. Boa tarde. Good afternoon. In the evening on Wednesday, you have the option to go and play laser tag, which is good fun. And good afternoon, Arena F. Thank you very much for joining. Thursday, if you're around on Thursday in Malta, there's the opportunity to go to see the three cities and the temples tour. But then in the there's also Sandra. Good afternoon, Sandra, and of course from Germany. So it would be Guten Tag, if I'm not mistaken. You've got parasailing as well. Parasailing is when you are on a speedboat and you are on a kite, and you get pulled along by a kite up in the air. So that's good fun. And then in the evening, there's a dinner at Santini. Friday, if you like horses, well, you have the opportunity to go horse riding. There's also an Indina and Central Highlights sunset tour. Sunset in in a place, sorry, like Indina is very nice. And then on Saturday, you've got Gozon Camino. I really recommend going to Gozon Camino if you have not been yet. And Janania I don't know how to say the actual full name, but you've got an opportunity in the evening to go to this lovely bay. And then on Sunday, you've got a full day, an option to spend the full day in Camino, Blue Lagoon, lovely part. And then you also have the opportunity to go to the south of Malta, where you could go and see certain places like St. Peter's Pool, which is a really nice place to swim. And I think the Blue Grotto, if I'm not mistaken. So you've got some really good activities to do this week at AM Language. For the rest of you, this week there's a level test as well. So good luck to you, those of you who are doing the level test. So let's begin. Like I said, guys, today we're going to look at how to link ideas. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at while, and we're going to look at whilst. After we look at while and whilst, we're then going to look at whereas. Now, all of these words are what we would call conjunction words. These are words that now they can sometimes be used as in the form of an adverb or another type of word, so that they can sometimes change their category. But the one category that they're always going to be cast in is a conjunction word. And a conjunction word is how you link clauses and ideas and thoughts together. So we are going to look at these three today. And we're going to start off with while and whilst. Now, I should say this, while. This is US English to begin with. So it's common in US English, and it's used a lot. Now, whilst, traditionally, you would say this is UK English, but it's not used that often anymore. The two actually mean the same thing. They are typically used in the same way. And in the past, you would say that was the main difference. Whilst would be typically used in UK English, while it was typically used in US English. But over the years, while has become the more preferred option. Even in UK English today, if you go to the UK, you will see people using while probably more often than whilst. Whilst, I'm not particularly sure why. It might have something to do with the popularity of American culture through films, TVs, and maybe more in recent years, maybe authors as well. While has become more common even in British English than your traditional whilst, but they both mean the same thing, really. So that's the first thing that one needs to know. Now, the next thing that we might want to know is, what does it mean? Why do we use it? So I think the best way to go about it is this. You're going to link two ideas together, okay? Two ideas together, or / two clauses, okay? And we've got two different ways of going about this. And I'm just going to start off with a sentence that can then sort of, I think by showing the sentence, I think it will actually automatically become a little bit clearer. I'm going to keep while and whilst together here because, like I said, they mean the same thing. So the thieves entered their house whilst they were away for vacation. Actually, to be honest, I'm going to change something there. I'm going to say that sentence again. Whilst they were away on vacation. As a personal preference, I prefer using the preposition on when it comes to vacation, though you can use for. Anyway, that's your opening sentence. So what's happening here? You've got two actions, okay, or you could have two events that happen at the same time. That's the first thing that we need to look at. Okay, so you've got two actions that are happening at the same time. And we want to say that this action happened at the same time as this action, or this event happened at the same time as this event. So that is why we would choose to use while or whilst. Now, we can use it here in the middle of a sentence to link the first part to the second part. We can also use it at the start of a sentence as well. So I'm going to show this one here, which I think is a good sentence that highlights what I'm talking about. Let's change this to... So while or whilst you were away, comma, this is important. If you're going to start with it, you're going to put a comma after you've put that first initial clause, okay? Your friends came and took your toolkit. Again, we've got two actions that happened at the same time. You've got action technically here. Action one comes second, meaning some people are out. They were not at home. And action two, that happened at the same time, though not exactly at the same time. As in action one, the start of action one came first and went on for a period of time. And at some point during this action one, action two happened. I think that's a better way of explaining it. So then action two, which is some people coming to take their toolkit. Actually, I got this wrong way around. So action one, so we're going to go with, just to break this down even further, I don't want to confuse you. So while plus action one, comma, plus action two. So action one is these people being away. Maybe they're on holiday. They're out of their house, comma, plus action two, which is some friends going round to their place to taking their toolkit. Their toolkit is their, your screwdriver, your hammer, your DIY kit, so to speak. Okay. Now, in the first one, the thieves entered their house while they're away on vacation. In this instance, you've got action two plus while slash whilst plus action one. So you can change them around as well. So let's go into it now. I'm going to give you an incomplete sentence, but jumbled up. They're not going to be in the correct order. And you guys need to try and put them into the correct order. And yes, so I'm going to ask you to put them into the correct order. Now, I should say that there are other ways that we can use while, but today I'll just want to focus on using it as a conjunction word. So let's go with this first one. Okay. Okay, so you've got two parts to this sentence. You were at work and the workman came to fix the door. You've got the option of while or whilst. In this case, I'd like you to think where it might make more sense to put while or whilst. Do you think it makes more sense to put it at the beginning? If you decide to put it at the beginning, then you don't forget about the comma. So let's see how you try to put these two parts of the sentence together. And you need to choose. You can choose between while or whilst. If you want to go UK English, go with whilst. If you want to go US English, go with while. Let's see what you guys come up with. So you've got action 1, which is you were at work, and you've got action 2, which is the workman came to fix the door. So Alida has gone with while you were at work, comma, the workman came to fix the door. Excellent. That's a really good start. You've gone with while, and you correctly put the comma in after that first bit, and it links nicely. So well done. That is a good start. Well done, Alida. Let's see if anyone else would like to come in, or maybe you just agree with Alida. Maybe you think that that's the best way to put it together. Okay, we'll see if anyone else comes in. I will slowly give you less words, so you have to create more of your own sentence. Leondine has gone with whilst. So whilst you were at work, the workman came to fix the door. Excellent, well done. You've gone for the UK English version, whilst. You've put the comma in the correct place, and the workman came to fix the door. Perfect, well done. Sound looks really, really good. Okay, let's go again. I'm happy with that. So this one. So the plane took off. You were stuck at check-in. So we've got two actions really here happening at the same time. It's not even necessarily clear which one. For argument's sake, we can say action 1 is the plane taking off, and action 2 is you are stuck at check-in. So then you've got the option of while and whilst. Maybe you want to go with while or whilst at the beginning, or maybe this time you think there's an opportunity to put while or whilst in the middle of the actual sentence. So Alida's gone with while at the beginning. So you've said, while you were stuck at check-in, comma, the plane took off. Okay, that works really well. And you've put the comma in the correct place again. Excellent, well done. I'm going to ask if anyone can have a go at trying to maybe put, can you try and create this sentence with while or whilst maybe in the middle of the sentence? Do you think it works? Can you do it? That's my question. Or do we have no choice but to use it at the start of the sentence? But really good sentence nonetheless. So thank you, Alida. Off to a very good start. Okay. Alida has, okay, so you've played around with now. So you were stuck at check-in. Okay, so you've gone for the check-in first. Okay, so you were stuck at check-in while the plane took off. Excellent. That's a really good sentence and a really good example of how you can use while in the middle of your sentence. Leondina, the plane took off whilst you were stuck at check-in. I really like the difference in this between these two sentences because both of them are correct. Leondina has gone for the plane taking off as the first action that she's going to talk about. You've linked the two with the UK version of whilst, and you've put you were stuck at check-in as the second action. Of course, both of these actions have happened at the same time. So both of you, excellent, 100%, really good examples of how to use while and whilst. So we're doing well. It can be quite difficult to get this one right, but I'm really pleased to see how well you guys are doing. So let's go for whereas. And then we'll finish off at the end to see how all of these ones can tie in, and we can make sure that we get the right one every time. Now, whereas, well, the first thing we need to know about whereas is that you are always comparing two things. Now, it could be two things, it could be two people, or two situations, really. So you've got to be using this as a form of a comparison, okay? And when you use it, you're trying to say that there is, you're trying to highlight that there is an important difference between the two things. Now, just like the first one, I'm going to give you two examples. And what you'll see is what happens when we choose to use, when we need to use the comma. It's very similar. In fact, it's identical to when we use while or whilst. If we start with it, we're going to have to put a comma. So let's look at some examples here that can really give us a good idea of how we can try and use them. So we'll start off simply. Okay, John has black hair, whereas his sister Kate has blonde hair. So here we're comparing hair between a brother and a sister, and in this case we put whereas in the middle. We're saying on one hand you've got John with black hair, and you've got Kate who has blonde hair, and we're putting whereas in the middle. Remember, we are comparing two things, and we want to say this is an important difference. Now, what happens when we choose to use whereas at the start of the sentence? This time I've created an example using whereas at the start of the sentence. And when this happens, just like with while or whilst, we need to put a comma after the first bit. So whereas French wine is often expensive, comma, Sicilian wine is rather inexpensive. Inexpensive is of course a synonym for cheaper really. Well, cheap in this case, but with this type of comparison, the more accurate is really cheaper. And this is a really good way with comparing two things, and we want to highlight the difference. In this case, I am highlighting the difference between how expensive French wine is in comparison to Sicilian wine. And the other thing here is, whereas you've got potential a lot of synonyms sometimes for this, such as although being one of them. But we don't need to worry about that. It simply is the conjunction word we need to use when we want to compare two things. And in particular, we're trying to highlight a specific difference. So let's see how you guys do here. Like before, I'm going to create an incomplete sentence, and you guys need to put whereas in the correct place. And you also need to think about if you need a comma or if you don't need a comma as well. So with okay. So you've got this comparison, and it looks like the comparison is going to be about history. The USA having a lot of recent history, and Europe that has a lot of ancient history. Not to say, of course, Europe doesn't have a lot of recent history. That's automatic, but it's trying to highlight the difference in history in some sort of way. And then you've got whereas. So the question is, how do you use whereas if you choose to use whereas at the start of the sentence, and how do you choose to use whereas when you use it in the middle of the sentence? Don't forget, whereas it's a conjunction word. It's linking two things. It's comparing two things where you think there is a big difference. So Sergio says at the start of the sentence. Okay, so Sergio, could you write that whole sentence for me? I'd like to see what you have in mind by saying at the start of the sentence. The reason being is, Sergio, I want to know if you think we need a comma if we need to use it at the start of the sentence. And that's something else to think about. If we choose to use whereas at the start of the sentence, does this mean we need a comma? So Alida has gone with, okay, so Alida has gone in with effectively what Sergio suggested, which is whereas the USA has a lot of recent history, Europe has a lot of ancient history. So this is a very good sentence. Of course, if we're going to use whereas at the start of the sentence, the article the T, obviously, instead of being capitalized, has to be in lowercase. But that's the only thing we need to change. But that's a very good sentence, Alida. Well done. Can someone have a go at trying to put whereas in the middle of the sentence? Oh, thank you very much. Yes, that is a typo. My mistake. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I see what you're getting at there, Alida. You're suggesting that I have made a typo of the word ancient. And yes, that is very much the case. I have made a mistake with that one. I do apologize. I have made a mistake. That was a typo. I've said accent instead. That was silly of me. Sorry, I didn't realize. Thank you for pointing that out, Alida. I can tell you in terms of the correct word that we're looking for here, it is the second one, being ancient. Sorry. So yes, that's what I meant is right. I didn't realize I had written accent. Sorry, apologies. I didn't read what I had written. Okay, so yes, Sergio, that is correct. Leondine has gone with Europe has a lot of ancient history, whereas the USA has a lot of recent history. Good, you've used it in the middle. And well done, Sandra. You have also used it correctly in the middle of the sentence. So well done. Yes, Leondina, thank you very much. So apologies about the typo. I wrote accent instead of ancient. I'm not sure why I did that. Probably, you know what, I didn't read what I had written. I assumed I had written it correctly. Never mind. We're off to a good start. Let's go again. And this time I'm going to adding one or two more things to it. So let's go again. Maybe we should go with. Okay, let's see if I can make this a little bit sort of way. So you've got two events happening at the same time. This is something you would see in business English, actually. We haven't experienced a downturn in sales. Actually, sorry. Let me rewrite this again. I've just realized something I didn't. There's just one slight difference I want to make. That's the one I wanted to use. Decrease, not increase. So, action one, we haven't experienced a downturn in sales. A downturn, by the way, when we're talking about things to do with money and sales, is a reduction, okay, or a decrease, okay? This is to do with the amount of money. So downturn is when you start to lose money. So we haven't experienced a downturn in sales. They have seen, and that should be decrease. They have seen a decrease. Okay, so I'm just going to change the article because that should be an instead of an an. So that's what we're going for here. And then you've got whereas. So you need to decide if you're going to go with whereas at the start or in the middle. And what could potentially be interesting to see here is the fact that both of these we're linking two comparisons together with a present perfect. And this is something, even though you are using a present perfect, it doesn't need to be simple sort of present simple or past simple. We can do this with the present perfect. We can do this with the perfect tenses. The rule remains the same. So let's see what you guys go for with whereas. Like I said, this would be an example you would find in business English, and you want to use the term, you want to use whereas. So Alida has gone with whereas they have been a decrease in sales. We haven't experienced a downturn in sales. Okay, the only thing you need to change there, Alida, is instead of have been, have yes, well done. You saw it just as I was about to say, seen, and then that makes perfect sense. So well done, Alida, and you've put the comma in the correct place. Leondine has gone for the same, a similar thing, or is it exactly the same? Whereas they have seen a decrease in sales, we haven't experienced a downturn in sales. Excellent, well done. That's really, really good. And what we can automatically see here, now this is something we're going to look at later on in the week, which is how not to repeat yourself. What we can automatically see here is, then this is an example of this. We've got two words, we've got decrease and downturn in sales. They both mean the same thing. And in business English, this is something you would learn on our course, something that's very important, which is within one sentence or a paragraph for that matter, you don't want to use the same language again and again. You don't want to use the same adjective, for example. You should be able to try and think of different adjectives or maybe different nouns if possible, or verbs, when especially in comparison. So when making a comparison, be really careful. You don't want to use the same word twice. And this leads me on to the next one. This time, I'm not going to complete the two examples for you. You will have to think of an alternative word. So let's go for it. I'm going to give you an example first. So I'm not going to give you many words. 8 adjectives, for example. So we've got experienced, bad, weather, whereas, holiday. So we've got holiday as probably, okay, this is going to be the focus of our comparison. So the way you could then try and create your own sentence would be, for instance, we could say, whereas we had bad weather on our holiday, comma, they didn't have terrible weather. They didn't have terrible weather at the resort they stayed at, or they stayed in. The resort that they stayed. Terrible weather at the resort they went to. Okay, so this would be an example. Now, I haven't given you a lot. I've just gone with experienced, bad, weather, whereas, and holiday. So you would then try to create your own sentence. And here, this is an example. Whereas we had bad weather on our holiday. So I've gone in straight away at making sure I've used the key words here, like holiday, weather, bad, whereas. And I am talking about an experience, but I've chosen not to use the word experience. So whereas we had bad weather on our holiday, they didn't have terrible weather at the resort they went to. Okay, so we're comparing two holidays, and instead of using the word bad, I've used the word terrible to talk about the weather. Now, it doesn't mean they had great weather, but it doesn't mean they had weather like the weather we had. So let's see how you guys do with this one. Let's go with okay, so we've gone for experienced again. Now, this is something that you don't need to necessarily use, but you do need to talk about experience. You've got the adjective bad again. Instead of weather, we're now talking about problems. And it looks like this problem is going to be related to a new car. So you are going to be talking about, you need to create a sentence where you're comparing an experience with a new car, maybe two people who have bought a new car at the same time. Maybe it's the same car. Like the example above, there's not a full construction, there's not a full sentence ready for you. So this one, you're going to have to try and put in a lot of your own words in order to make it work. And Leondina is very quick here. So Leondina, you have said, whereas they had bad weather on their holiday. Oh, so you're going with the one above. We experienced a nice journey. Okay, I think there's a lot of things there that could work. Instead of a synonym, you've gone with an antonym, closer to an opposite rather than similarity. But overall, this is a good sentence, and I'm happy with it. Don't forget, if you start with whereas, you need a big W rather than a small one, but I'm happy with that. So I think that's a good way to go about it. Well done, Leondina. Nicely done. So now we're looking at the second one. We're talking about, again, it's an experience, it's a bad experience. Instead of weather, we're now looking at a problem, and it's to do with a new car, and we need to use whereas. So let's see how you guys can create your own sentence around this. Now, like I was saying, you have some words in this sentence, but you guys now need to try and introduce more words in order to create a sentence that makes sense. So this is probably the hardest task so far. And then if there's time, we'll see if we can finish off where we can put in both whereas and whilst at the same time. So Alida's gone with, whilst we had problems with the new car, they didn't have much trouble like us. Really good. I think they didn't have, I think instead of they didn't have much trouble like us, I would be very tempted to just put in they didn't have as much trouble as us. I think what I would say is there's nothing wrong with what you've written. I would say I would just be very tempted just to use that type of language because it's a typical as much as us. It follows on quite nicely with that kind of comparison. But with terms of what you have written, Alida, there's actually nothing really wrong with it. So well done, really good sentence. Sergio has gone in with, whereas I had a giant problem with a new car, my dad had an old instead of a old car working. And in terms, with the exception of the article, Sergio, that's an excellent sentence. So well done. So well done, Leondina. Well done, Alida. And well done, Sergio. Really good. Right, we've got time for one more. Let's see how you guys can put these sentences, this one, together. So now this is a hard one. Sorry, I was about quiet for about a minute. This is quite a difficult one. Let's see how you guys do, because here I've introduced while as well. So you got whereas, brother, successful banker, sister became successful doctor while studying accounting. So what you're missing here is a lot of functional language. Now you can play around with this one in terms of which event came first, which action came first. Let's see how you guys do. What I've done here is I've introduced how we can also introduce while. So you can have two comparisons and you can still introduce while to compare one thing to another thing at the same time. So it is possible. Let's see what you guys go for. This is the hardest one so far. It is possible. I've given you a little bit of a help in terms of if you follow, if you like, you can follow the structure. So the order is already there for you. What you need to think about is the functional language. I do suggest to go for the past simple. It will make it a lot easier. And this is what I mean. We've got the meaning already there. Sometimes the hardest thing is just linking everything together with functional language, such as the grammatical things, such as, okay, if I write in the past simple, do I need were or was? I'm going to go with was. What sort of pronouns am I going to go with? Am I going to go with my? Am I going to go with your? In reality, you don't need that many words to complete that sentence. It's by far the hardest. And I'll give you some time. I'll give you a minute to see if you guys can try and work this one out. But this is by far the hardest. If not, I'll just tell you what the answer is. But it is hard. But if any of you do get this right, you can certainly give yourself a very big pat on the back because it is challenging. This is difficult. I don't expect everybody to be able to do this one. So if you do manage to do it, very well done. Alida. Let's see what you have written. Whereas the brother became a successful banker, comma, the sister became a successful doctor while she was studying accounting. Alida, that is excellent. You can give yourself a big pat on the, not just the shoulder, the back. Okay, excellent. That is the correct answer. Perfect. Like the video for Alida with that fantastic one. If any of you want to play around with it, you can. There is another way of writing the sentence. Okay, I'm just going to prepare it for you. And the trick is, if you want to change everything around, you literally have to put the end at the beginning and the beginning at the end. So it would end up looking a bit like this. I'm just going to quickly read it before I share. So it could potentially look a bit like this. And this is what I mean. If you're going to use while, you would then put while at the start of the sentence. And wait a second. I forgot to put something in. And I think something. There we go. So while she. Whereas her brother became a successful banker. So this is the difference using this. Now, what we can see here is Alida's answer compared to the other example here. If you start off with whereas, the while bit of the sentence comes at the end. However, when you are doing it the other way round, you just have to turn everything on its head. So while you might start with the brother in the first one, you would finish with the brother in the second one. So this is a really good example. But like I said, if you can do this, this is actually quite difficult when you include whereas and while at the same time. But I think it's safe to say this has been, some of you have managed to do it. We worked our way up from the beginning with it being a little bit easy at the beginning, and we gradually made things a bit more difficult. So guys, thank you very much for watching today. If you have enjoyed the lesson today and you have found the video, I'll ask you also to subscribe if you're new and to share the video or share the channel with people you know who are I know more about I think that's Nina, of course. Thank you very much for your participation today, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 4 o'clock to look at everyday idioms. Have a great evening, stay safe, and I'll see you tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.